Roy Hickey.
Here.
Bill Ferguson. Jerry Ford.
Here.
Bubba Gregory. Landon Dillon.
Here.
Richard Marsh.
Here.
Dwight Jewell,
Here.
Richard Johnson,
Here.
Rachel Jones,
Here.
David Nollner,
Here.
Amber Russell, Lonnie Taylor, Gary Walsh, Steve Whitaker, Ethan Bowles. 19 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Just to give you a little instruction on these microphones, if you want to be recognized, if you push the bar, it will blink green. That lets us know that you want to be recognized. If it turns red, that means your microphone is on and you have been recognized, and then we'll also try to do some voice commands with it tonight. It's going to take us a while to get used to this. We know that they're still working on the volume and things of that nature, and the touch screens, there's a way to adjust them, make them brighter and things of that nature. We'll try to have a real class on everything at the next work session, but we did want to at least be able to use the microphone part of it tonight if we possibly could. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Next item on our agenda, item 5, is the approval of the minutes from the May 24th, 2021 meeting. Is there any deletions or additions or corrections? Mr. Ford?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. You have a second? Mr. Dickey gets the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Announcements, our July 4th fireworks will be at 9 p.m., promptly at 9 p.m. in the park. On the 4th, the parade is on the 3rd, and I believe it starts at 7 o'clock, trying to get a little bit cooler in the day. Music at the park starts at 3 on Sunday. Okay, so any other announcements? Anyone have any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Amendments to the agenda, the only ones I have are the ones we talked about in work session. We do have some appointments that we added. I can find them. We added the library board, 3 names, Amy Davenport, Janessa Ellis, and Thena Haynes to the appointments. Also, 2 resolutions. Resolution 2021-17-721 and 2021-18-722. Also, we do have 2 notaries that just came in that we will cover as well. Is there any other additions to the agenda? Okay. Yep. Mr. Harsh?
Move to set the agenda.
Have a motion to set the agenda by Mr. Harsh. Mr. Taylor has a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. It is done. Yes, please.
Okay. Like for seconds and stuff, are we still raising our hands or are we pushing buttons tonight?
If you do both, that'd be great.
Okay.
So we kind of get used to this. I don't have my touch screen to be able to recognize people, so Amy's having to do it vicariously. So it's not exactly, like I said, the way it's going to be. It'd be better to do both.
Okay.
And we'll try to give you time. If you don't see your mic turn red, just wait till it does before you start talking, I think. That will help. Okay. Right. Citizens' response to the agenda items. If any of the citizens are here would like to speak to any of our agenda items, we'd ask that you come forward and sign your name, sign in, and what you'd like to speak to so that we can call on you at the appropriate time. Anyone like to speak to any of the agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. County Mayor's report, Mayor Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to start off with a couple of grants. The Local Parks and Recreation Fund grant, we did receive that. That is for ADA improvements and playground equipment at Trey Park. That is a little over $94,000 grant. It is a 50-50 match grant, so we'll also have to put in that same amount for this. We're grateful for that grant. That was a lot of work went into that for a lot of different individuals, and we're really happy to get that grant. The second grant was the multimodal grant. That was to do sidewalk from the end of the streetscape project out here on Main Street on Broadway up to the McMurray Boulevard Broadway intersection by Citizens Bank. We were informed we did not get that grant. However, they did offer the opportunity for us to meet with TDOT to kind of go over and see, you know, where we could have improved our application. They did say that this is one of their most competitive grants, and it was again this year. I think there were 38 applicants, and there's only a finite amount of money. So even though we didn't get that, I'm looking forward to getting a lot of good feedback from TDOT on how to strengthen our application for next time. Mr. Paxton has asked me to discuss the redistricting committee had their organizational meeting. Mr. Paxton was elected chair, Sam Edwards was elected vice chair, and Marion Baker was elected secretary. And they will hold their next meeting once the comptroller's office gives them dates for training on the new redistricting software. The last item I'm going to talk about is the Veteran Services Officer. I did receive a resignation from Amber Russell, who's got some family commitments she's got to take care of. I did meet with an assistant commissioner for the State Department of Veterans Services. Looking over our veteran population, he suggested we look at maybe contracting or working with another county. There's several counties about our size, maybe a little bit bigger, that share VSOs, and he suggested we look at that route. He's contacting Sumner County. They have 2 full-time VSOs to see if they'd be willing to have some people come over here a few times a month, and so we're following up on that route. At this time, we're referring people to the Gallatin office again because they have 2 full-time people, and other surrounding counties just have part-time, so that should be able to get them full service. And we also have the number for the State Department of Veterans Services. They said they would assist us in any way they could as well. So we'll be putting that information on the website, and hopefully we'll be able to get services there and evaluate that as we go forward. Hopefully next month we'll have something to report on that. Since it is currently in the budget, fully funded as it was before, once we get that lined up, as long as it's under what's under the budget, I don't know that I'll have to come back to the county commission for that. And that's my report. I'll take any questions if anyone's got anything on what I discussed or any other questions.
Anyone have any questions for the mayor? Don't see any. Okay, we'll go into our committee reports. First, steering committee met on June 1st. We discussed several things. Election commission moving to the courthouse, the improvements to be made to the courthouse, sidewalks, lighting, windows, things of that nature. We had talked about the pool not being able to open. There was a question about the signage on Front Street. It has been ordered and it will be placed as soon as it comes in. We discussed the amendments to the budget regarding the 2% increase that's been mandated by the state and how that would affect our budget, and that is reflected in our numbers. Wage study, the mayor said that he's hoping it'll be completed within the next month. Wanting to look at some of the ordinances need to be updated, combined some with old city ordinances and things, brought up to speed. The jail committee will be meeting soon, trying to set a date at this point. We did receive the report back from TCI.
Some will have to be recognized again, sorry.
Amy, the mayor, please.
It was a county technical assistance service. We did receive the report on that, and I forwarded it to the County Corrections Partnership Committee along with several dates for a meeting. At this point, it looks like July 15th may be the best date, but not everyone's going to be able to attend, but right now that seems to be the best date, and just kind of give you a little bit of preview on that. They recommended a jail of 105 beds for various reasons, separate offenders for programming space, which we often, right now, we don't have enough programming space, so it was broken down into different types of needs, but as far as male and female total, they recommended 105 beds.
Also, Ms. Ford brought to our attention that wheel tax would be expiring next year, and that was basically it with steering committee. Next, Budget and Finance Committee met on June 21st. We reviewed the county trustees report for May and the financial summaries and the trustee trial balance for May. There was no anomalies, nothing that presented any question, I guess you'd say, in that budget. And the reports were accepted as presented. We did go over the county general fund, the budget amendments that we have for tonight. There's amendments in county general fund, in urban services, solid waste and highway, and general purpose school funds. All of those were approved. There's several interfund transfers basically within the school budget. All of these we'll be able to take tonight at one, or we'll pull them out if anybody wants any one of them pulled out. The 143 schools food services programs, moving some monies around for commodities due to the end of the year. All of those were approved by Budget and Finance and sent on to the full body. We did go over the water utility, the water department's budget, and it was approved and sent forward to the full body. It's included in your expenditures in your final budget for tonight. There were no public comments. That's what we did. Any questions on it? Okay. Next, Building Committee.
Yes, sir. We met on June the 17th, and we started out with Mayor Chambers' address the courthouse renovations. Then the mayor has received one estimate for a complete replacement of the existing heat and air conditioning system. That estimate was $698,000. One bid to replace the old windows with newer, more efficient windows was $130,000. The mayor then addressed the work being done on the room tentatively set aside for the election commission offices. Some insurance money from the damage that's left over from where it flooded down there and we replaced the flooring can be used to help with the cost of the new floor. The mayor has received suggestions regarding lighting improvements and efficiency. The use of LED lights and new fixtures was recommended. The next issue was possibly moving the election office to the courthouse. There was discussion on that. The chairman of the election commission spoke, Sherry Baxley spoke, and also the extension agent that shares the other side of the building was there. Jason Evett spoke to the committee, and there was discussion and committee members spoke, and ultimately there was a motion made and it was passed unanimously that the election commission would move to the courthouse. The mayor then spoke on sidewalk improvements. A request to have TDOT place sidewalks between downtown Hartsville and Highway 25 had been turned down for this year's TDOT budget, but we will apply again for next year's cycle of the projects. we moved on down then to, the water department, and there was a motion made, in regard to the water department being able to build on the, lot that's up there, and that motion, did pass. Then the sheriff, asked us to address erosion there at the jail where the, rocks have washed out underneath the fence where the inmates, walk, and he's not allowed to, or can't put them back there for the fact of the erosion, and he wanted to make us aware of that, and he does need approval from TDEC to work with that situation. And then the mayor advised the committee on the need for more county phones due to added employees and offices. That will require him to expand the current phone contract. There was no need for any committee action there. The question was raised about the sale of the properties that was to be taken, the properties that were taken over by the county due to back taxes. These have been held by the county for a year, and we can now sell them at public auction. The mayor said that sale should take place this summer, and that's my report.
Any questions? Okay. Parks and Rec met June 14th. There it goes.
Yes, the Parks and Rec did meet June the 14th. The first item we discussed was the swimming pool, why it was not open this year. Public Works Director Salee was here. He gave us an update. He said he had 20 to 25 applicants that applied. 13 applied for certification in Gallatin. Only 8 showed up for certification, with 3 failing the first night and 5 successfully completing it. Then it went down to 2 guards due to family vacations and 1 person breaking their arm. And there's no way we could open the pool up this year with 2 lifeguards that first week. We just didn't have enough help. Our committee more or less said we need to get started right now to get the swimming pool open next year, if any way possible. The next thing we discussed was the lighting and the poles at the Little League Park. The mayor is supposed to do RFP and get us some bids out on that. Maybe it'll have for our next meeting. Then the last thing we discussed was the disc golf. He said he sent the disc disciples to the Chamber of Commerce link to assist them with getting sponsorships from local businesses. They're trying to raise $8,000. If y'all know any businesses would like to donate for a hole down there for the disc golf, they can get a hold of the disc disciples or the chamber or the mayor's office there. Then the last thing we did discuss was the grant that the mayor discussed here a few minutes ago, the 50-50 match on that $94,000 that we received, and we appreciate the mayor and all that did the hard work on that, because that is a good major grant to update the Trey Park. And that was about it.
Y'all will, when you're talking, make sure your microphone is pointing toward you, not over the top of your head. It picks up a lot better if it's coming this way, not this way. All you gotta do is reach up and pull it down if you need to. We'll get the volumes adjusted on them. Everybody, some people talk a little louder than others, and we're trying to get that taken care of. Next, we had prisoner relations, Mr. Ford.
Am I on?
Yes, sir.
We met on June the 15th at 6 o'clock here in the courthouse. We did have all of our committee here, but I think one. We have a new warden by the name of Martin Frink. And he was here to give us a good rundown on where Core Civic is right now. They're not totally staffed. They still lack a few. But everything seems to be running very nice out there, I guess, for a prison as far as it could be. I think he's got COVID just about whipped. I don't think he had any new out there, maybe 1 or 2 in quarantine. And that's basically about it. Just a good report from the new warden, and we wish him well and hope he can keep that place running straight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Any questions for Mr. Ford? Were there any other reports, any committees I missed? Okay. would like to let you know that the Education Committee will meet July the 8th at 6 o'clock. You want to go ahead and make a note of that. July the 8th at 6 o'clock. Any other chairman, anybody else have a committee you want to announce? Okay, see none, we'll move on into our active business for tonight. Appointments and reappointments. First, Beer Board, filling a vacancy there for a term that's ending January 31st of next year, Mr. Richard Davis. Planning Commission, Mayor is appointing Sarah Murray to a 4-year term on the Planning Commission. As far as committee appointments, Chairman is appointing 5th District Commissioner Richard Davis to Economic Development, Education, Law Enforcement, and Personnel per his request. Also, the Library Board, we have 3 appointments: Amy Davenport, Janessa Ellis, and Thena Haynes. Mayor, are there any other appointments? Okay. Have a motion to approve these. Mr. Noller?
Make a motion to approve all these people.
Okay. Have a motion to approve all these. Mr. Walsh has a second, I believe. Okay. Who? Ms. Jones?
Second.
Ms. Jones has a second. Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that is done. Next, we'll go into our resolutions. First is Resolution 2021-15-719. This is the appropriations to nonprofit charitable organizations. This is for next year, the year July 1st through June 30th. We have to identify these and the amounts at the reading of the budget. Any questions on these? Okay, Mr. Parsh?
Appropriations for these charitable organizations.
Have a motion to approve the resolution. Mr. Taylor? Mr. Taylor has a second. Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It does pass. Okay. Next resolution is 2021-16-720. This is a resolution authorizing lease agreements. These are lease agreements of more than 1 year. Some of them are continuing years that have been entered into and need to be entered into for multi-year agreements. We always pull those out and do those separately at the beginning of budget time if we know of them. Any new ones would come before us at a later date. These are the current ones. Any questions on these? Okay, see none. Mr. Gully? Mr. Gully has a motion to approve. Ms. Jones has a second. I gotta push that button quick. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. It does carry. Okay. Next is 2021-17-721. This is a resolution to direct the relocation of the Election Commission offices here to the Trousdale County Courthouse. And this has been ongoing for some time. Feel like we've looked at every possible way to juggle things around to get everybody the room they need, and this seems to be the best possible solution. This was approved and sent forward by the building committee. It also authorizes the county attorney to use any legal means necessary to ensure that this move, it takes place no later than February 1st of next year. Mr. Ford.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Ford to approve. Ms. Russell? Ms. Russell has a second. Any questions? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay. One no. It does carry. Okay. Next is Resolution 2021-18-722. This is a resolution to authorize the Water Department to construct a new building on the back corner lot located at 328 Broadway in behind the administration building. This was approved in Buildings Committee and sent forward to the full body. Mr. Gully, you're recognized.
All right, I can talk loud enough. Either way, did we receive those? We had asked the other night in our work session about the entranceway there to see what we were going to have there. Did we get anything on that entranceway and how that was going to look?
Mayor?
I believe Mr. McFarland was gonna get the plans that the engineer have drawn up. I've got him as a member of the water board, but at least I think I do. But yeah, basically it's gonna widen out towards, if you're turning in right now and you've got the row of trees on your right, it's gonna widen out that direction. So it's gonna create 2 lanes, whereas right now there's currently 1. And it's gonna go back to where this building is gonna be built, and there will be a drive-through for any customers coming to the water department, and then they'll circle back around and come out.
The entrance is currently one-way coming in, will go to 2-way going in and out. That's part of the project. That's included in the cost of the project.
Yes.
Is that correct? That's correct. Any other questions, Mr. Ford? You're on.
I'd like to make a motion that we put this off to next term of court. It seems like that this has come at us in such a way that, I know there's some for, some against, it's beside the point. I'd like for us to have just a little bit more time to take a look at this thing and be sure that's what we want to do. I'm making a motion that we put it off till next term of court.
Mr. Ford has made a motion to postpone this till the next meeting. Okay. I believe that motion is in order. Have a second. Mr. Gully makes a second. Have a motion and a second to postpone this. Okay. Okay. Anyone further discussion on this?
Department, do you remember a couple of meetings ago, we had a resident, a Trouser County resident came to the meeting, and he said that he was about getting charged sewage on his farm tap, and this committee this body told him that we didn't handle that he needed to go to the water board. So I'm a little confused on why we can handle some things that the water department is trying to do, but not other things. Can somebody just explain that? Who sets the policies for the water board? The water board, or does this body do it?
Mayor, can you respond to that?
Yes, as far as setting rules and regulations of the water board governing what you just asked about, that would be the water board itself. The February of last year, there was an ordinance passed by this body that clarified its responsibilities. The issue with the property is because it was a department of the county, it had to be titled in the county's name. The water department paid for the property itself, but since it's a department, it can't own property outside itself, so it had to be titled in the county's name, and that was in they got the property on August 9th, 2018. So that's the difference in why this is here and to build on the county property, it has to have county commission approval.
There's already a building there. They're just going to add on, I just don't understand why I think their intention was to build a new building, because why would they buy the property? I just don't, I feel like we're understanding. That's just my opinion.
The water department acquired about 4.42 acres behind the administration building. That was for the purpose of building this building. And like I said, they voted to do that in July 25th, 2018, and acquired the property, recorded the deed on August 9th, 2018. So it was bought for that purpose. Now, the piece of land it's going to be built on, it's an open field right now, but that's why it was bought, for that purpose.
I don't know, I've got mixed emotions, but I consider, that at least 2 years ago, it was talking about building a building, the building that we're gonna build is not a multi-purpose building like they're proposing for one community. It was a place for storing machinery, get in and out of the road. One of the big obstacles I see is that they don't know what's going. That's it. It's not like if you don't put that kind of money in the building, you can look at it in a way of, being able to expand down the road. I mean, we done that down there in what I know of. And we built the high school down there, both ends of that. Is fixed the way you can expand the facility. You know, we're going to grow over the roads. We're going to new homes that we're building in the county. We're going to continue to grow. Another thing, I've had people call me and talk to me about the fact that people go down there and ask them to bring water to their area. I know there's several areas in the county ain't got water. And what I'm being told by, they're saying that we don't have any money. And we all know that ain't true. They're sitting on a considerable amount of money. We also know they've got to build a water tower, in which they plan on floating a bond issue on it. I don't know, it's very confusing to me what they're asking and what they're wanting to do.
Wish you would. Mr. Bowles, you're recognized.
I would like to add on to what Mr. Ford said. The water department had a new building. They added on to the old bank, and now they're in there now. And so I think you don't want to have to get a loan. And they had mentioned at the work session that they were going to get a loan to build and reconstruct the water towers. So instead of building a new building, there's, like he said, there's roads like Honeysuckle, and I don't know the rest of them, but I saw on social media that other people in the community had mentioned that there was multiple roads in Hartsville that don't even have water. And I had not even knew that until this past week, and that kind of didn't settle well with me now that we're trying to modernize the county and build up and make it look good. But a county is never going to look good if we don't fix the things on the inside, like adding the water. So I think that if we use the money that they have now to fix and add water to the roads that don't have it, and use that money to build and reconstruct those towers and get those things fixed to make sure, like at Minute Mart, that tower, the people in Minute Mart aren't even safe because it could fall over at any second. And so I think that if they take that money and reconstruct and do the things that need to be fixed to make sure the community's safe, then in a couple of years when their money builds back up, they take that money and then think about building a new building. But they need to make sure that the inside of the county is safe before they make it look pretty.
Thank you. Mr. Clarity, you're recognized.
I didn't punch.
All right. Ms. Jones, you're recognized.
I think maybe to explain to Mary Ann the ins and outs of why that is. I mean, the water department's the same as any other department in the county. The school board, the EMS, that we all have to approve their budgets. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Yes. And that's the reason why we have the authority to overstep, as you say.
I think the question was, they could vote to put the building there or come and ask us to put the building there. I think probably is the way maybe it should have been handled, but it wasn't.
Except for you. Was there any other votes?
The mayor abstained.
May I ask
No,
why?
he did not.
You did not?
I went back and looked at the video. I did not. I voted yes. And I'm going to address some questions now, if I'm recognized. All right. The no money to build lines, that is incorrect. The comptroller's office, since this is an enterprise fund, it has to fund itself. If you build a line to put water to 3 homes at a cost of $1.2 million, they do an estimate and look at it. Are you ever going to get the return on your money for that investment? If you spend that money and there's no way in the next 30, 40 years you're going to get your money back, the comptroller's office will come down on you very heavily because they see that as a waste of funds. Its investment has to get a return on money, and it has to fund itself. So if you don't have that return and you spend that money, you are in deep trouble. Let's see here. The lines and the towers, we are currently replacing those lines. And as far as the tower behind Minute Mart, the 2 million gallon tank, will tank that tank out of service. It's going to take that one and, is it Sulphur College, Tommy? And the Sulphur College tank, at least those 2 out of service, and possibly a third one. Taking those tanks out of service and replacing them with this new 2 million gallon tank will help us with water storage, and it'll also help with pressure issues we're having across the system, because not all these tanks are built at the same height. But that is something we are currently working on. As far as the loan itself, that is a state revolving loan fund obviously through the state, and that's for that purpose, to do this infrastructure improvements, and they give you really good return on that money. And am I correct, there is possibility of some forgiveness on that? Yeah, possibility of debt forgiveness if you meet certain eligibility requirements. So those are the 2 main issues. Was there a third that I'm forgetting? I wrote down the money for lines and then the towers. And as far as the administration building, the water department did not buy the administration building. The county built it, and it lets the water, at the time, water utility, now water department, use the building itself. So again, that was county money. And again, I'll remind everybody that the water department was talking about this, and they bought the building in 2018 in the open meeting. Everybody's known about it since at least I've been in office, and it was bought for this purpose, and that was in 2018.
In favor of the resolution the other night at the building committee. However, while I was in the doctor's office a few days ago, I met an elderly couple that live at the bottom of Griff Hollow Lane, and they do not have water. There's no reason for those elderly folks to have to try to steal our water. And I know that they are telling the truth, because it's the property that one of the former commissioners, Charlie Puckett, had down in Griff Hollow. And I saw him. I saw him literally every Sunday hauling big tanks of water. And so I know I cannot rescind my vote on that, but I'm against it now. I think every citizen of this county ought to have some kind of representation. Just like for close to 25 years, I have begged county officials to put guardrails on Gravel Hill. I've been promised everything. Today, there is still no guardrails at Gravel Hill. We can do better.
Ms. Bacon?
I don't know how to word it other than they knew, back in 2018, they bought that property with the intent to build a building. And Mr. Ford said that there's issues that have been brought up in services. You served on the water board. Why were those issues not addressed then?
Well, I think I can say one thing. The building as its inception was for a shop and to park some equipment in. And it grew and it grew to the whole operation moving out there. So to say that what was planned in 2018 or what was talked about then is not exactly what we're talking about now. Now, I'm not saying that this is not needed. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, but that's the why I think that it went on as far as it did.
To me, it just makes more sense to have your whole department under one building. Why are you gonna split them? Then you have the office, the clerks will be taking work orders, and then they have to get them to the guys out working in the shop, and I can understand why the water board did it. They have the money, it's their funds, let them build that building. I just don't understand why we're trying to micromanage the water department. And that's what it seems like to me. It seems like everybody's just, oh, they have this much money, so we're gonna micromanage them. They seem to have been doing fine. Water rates haven't been raised in how long? And they're not gonna have to raise any water rates to, build this building.
Mr. Dickey, I believe you're next. I'm sorry. Mr. Buckmaster, you're next.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I've spent several days the last week and a half out on that property. I've walked it. I have the plans. I believe there is room for some expansion. Expansion behind, expansion beside, which seems to be a question I don't understand. Are we voting today to allow them to build a building? Or are we voting to allow them to build the building on that property? The money itself is not what we're talking about. Is that not correct? They can build a building if they want to. Are we going to let them build it on that property?
That's the question.
So that's the question before us. So all this talk about what they need to spend their money on is a moot point. All we need to worry about is, do they need to build it on that property that they bought in good faith several years ago for the purpose of a building?
The motion on the floor currently that has been duly seconded is to take this up next month. So if we can limit our discussion to that question, then we can deal with the other question once that's dealt with. Everybody clear with that? We do have a motion that was duly seconded. Mr. Dickey, would you like to speak to that motion?
Well, I think that building should not be built because it's not going to be big enough. The county is growing, and 5 years from now, what are you going to do? They're going to build another building. I mean, they'd be wasting their money. It's best for them to buy another property like 5 acres, and build a bigger building. Now, if they got too long, 40 years long, they should spend most of their time trying to get rid of that loan. Because it doesn't make sense, build something, and then 2 years you gotta build another one. And you need to take that money away until you build a bigger building to hold all the equipment. That way everybody can be in the same building. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Jones?
I just think there's a lot of questions and confusion and a lot of discussion that needs to be addressed before we can actually make that vote. I call for the vote of Commissioner Ford's motion.
Call the question. Mr. Nollery, would you yield to the question?
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Okay. Right. I still see lights blinking, people wanting to be recognized. Okay, okay. All right, we do have a motion to defer action on this till next month's meeting. Is that what you have? Okay, motion was Mr. Ford and second by Mr. Gully. Okay, all in favor of the motion to defer till next month, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Let's do all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. We will take this up next month. Pardon? I'm sorry. 15 to 4, I believe it was. 15 to 4. Is that correct? 13-6. That's why they're looking at things. I think I had asked Mr. Beller for his opinion on if this was something that we needed to authorize them to build a building on the property. Mr. Beller, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to at least answer that question before we move on.
The statute says that the county legislative body has control over the land. This is in the name of Hartsville Trowser County. Therefore, like the mayor alluded to earlier, the water, they're a department of the county, and so they can't hold title to land in their name. So the county legislative body has to authorize it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We'll move on into ordinances. Yes, Mr. Noller, I'm sorry.
Do we need to send this back to committee? If everybody wants to get out here and talk about it and fuss about it, don't need to be fussing about it in the open meeting. They can go to come and have it at the committee meeting and fuss about it.
I think we can take it up at the steering committee, whether we want to refer it back to committee. That'd be the appropriate place to do that. I think we'll take your recommendation under.
Mr. Chairman, the motion was to table it for this body to next month, not to send it to any other committee. It is still in front of this body until it comes up next month. And a committee cannot override this body.
I concur. Thank you. You concur? Okay. All right. Yes?
I do want to bring the fact that we did put this out for bid, and the bid has been awarded, and putting it off another month may affect the bid. And I also want to speak to the fact that I'm sorry, this looks like we were going back, but we've operated the same way that we've normally operated. We did not know that we had to come before. You know, I thought we were operating in good faith by purchasing the land when we did, but nobody told us that we needed to come before you all to ask to build land on property that we purchased. So I also want to bring that to your attention. It's not the fact that we wanted to come in and push this over on you guys or hide it behind, you know, we've been working on this for 2 years. And if we had known beforehand, we would have brought it to you guys and went down the line. But this was brought to, well, it was never really brought to the board for us to even come to you guys. It was just, you know, we was all sudden on the agenda and we needed to be here. So I'm really hope y'all can get this thing looked at, make a vote, so we know which way to move. Because right now, as chairman of that board, I don't know which way to move, and I don't know which way to move going forward either after this.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I think I did at the board meeting question, did this need to go before planning or the county commission? And didn't seem to get any traction. I did ask that it be put off at that last meeting on the vote until we could get some questions answered. And it went ahead. We had the vote. This was the vote. I took it straight to the county attorney to get an opinion as to, was this the way it was supposed to be done? And that's why we're looking at it again. We'll look at it next month. Certainly if you have questions, please talk to Mr. Moreland, talk to Tommy, talk to the mayor, talk to me, get the information you need. Don't talk decisions, just get your information. Let's move on into our active business of ordinances, if we could. Tonight, we have first public hearing on ordinances concerning the budget. I would like to take the public hearing on all four at one time. If there's no objection, commissioners, are there any objections to opening the public hearing to all four? See no objections, so we will open the public hearing on ordinances 217, 20, 21, 08, 09, 10, and 11. Does anyone from the public like to speak to these ordinances on our budget? Anyone like to speak to the budget ordinances? Seeing none, entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Mr. Ford makes a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Mr. Clarity makes a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is done. We'll take up our second reading of ordinance 217, 2021, 08. This is budget appropriations for general services departments. Ladies, y'all keep me straight. This is our general fund, highway fund, general public school fund, and these were the ones that were approved in budget and finance and approved on first reading last month. The only thing that has changed on that is we've added in the water department budget, and we've also upped the line items that have to do with the 2% raise for elected officials. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. What's the will of the body? Mr. Ford? Have a motion to approve the budget. This is ordinance, make sure I get it right. 217, 2021, 08. Okay. Any questions? Seeing none. Ms. Jones?
Second.
Pardon?
I wanted to second the motion.
Okay. Mr. Ford has a second. Ms. Jones? Mr. Ford makes a motion. Ms. Jones has a second. Sorry. Any further discussion? Rita, call the roll when you're ready, please.
Yes.
Shane Burton.
Yes.
Gary Clarity.
Yes.
Richard Davis.
Yes.
Coy Dickey.
Yes.
Bill Ferguson's absent. Jerry Ford.
Yes.
Bubba Gregory. Landon Gully.
Yes.
Richard Harsh.
Yes.
Dwight Jewell.
Yes.
Richard Johnson. Rachel Jones.
Yes.
David Nollner.
Yes.
Amber Russell.
Yes.
Lonnie Taylor.
Yes.
Gary Walsh.
Yes.
Steve Whitaker.
Yes.
Ethan Bowles. 19 yes, 1 absent.
It is approved. Next is ordinance 218, 2021, 09. This is an ordinance to set the tax levy for the general services funds at 2.4388 cumulative on each $100 of taxable property. Mr. Harsh. Have a motion to approve by Mr. Harsh, a second by Mr. Taylor. Any discussion on the levy? Seeing none, Rita, when you're ready.
Beverly Atwood. Mary Ann Baker. Ken Buckmaster.
Yes.
Shane Burton. Gary Clarity. Richard Davis.
Yes.
Coy Dickey. Bill Ferguson. Jerry Ford. Bubba Gregory. Landon Gully. Richard Harsh. Dwight Jewell.
Yes.
Richard Johnson. Rachel Jones. David Nollner. Amber Russell. Lonnie Taylor. Gary Walsh. Steve Whitaker. Ethan Bowles. 19 yes, 1 absent.
Does pass. Next is ordinance 219, 2021-10. This is the budget appropriations for Urban Services District. I think this one is the one that we can all vote on. Yeah, we all vote on this one. Will of the body. Mr. Gregory makes a motion to approve. Mr. Dickey grabs a second. Motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Rita?
Beverly Atwood. Mary Ann Baker. Ken Buckmaster. Shane Burton. Gary Clarity. Richard Davis. Coy Dickey. Bill Ferguson is absent. Jerry Ford. Bubba Gregory. Landon Gully. Richard Harsh. Dwight Jewell.
Yes.
Richard Johnson.
Yes.
Rachel Jones. David Nollner. Amber Russell. Lonnie Taylor. Gary Walsh. Steve Whitaker. Ethan Bowles. 19 yes, 1 absent.
It is done. Next is ordinance 2021-11. This is the tax levy for urban services. This needs to come from our Urban Services Council. Mr. Gregory makes a motion to approve. Mr. Nollner makes a second.
Ready?
Yes.
Bubba Gregory. Richard Johnson. David Nollner. 3 yes, 0 no.
It is done. We can take up our third reading tonight. We need to have a motion to do that, and it has to pass by a 2/3 majority. Mr. Harsh?
Motion to take up the third reading tonight.
Have a motion and a second by Mr. Burton. Motion by Mr. Harsh and a second by Mr. Burton to do our third and final reading tonight. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I believe we can do that. Okay. We'll start off with third reading on ordinance 217-2021. This is the general service budget appropriations. Need a motion? Mr. Harsh
Motion to approve.
makes a motion to approve. Mr. Ford grabs a second. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rita, whenever you're ready.
Beverly Atwood. Mary Ann Baker. Ken Buckmaster. Shane Burton. Gary Clarity. Richard Davis. Coy Dickey. Absent. Jerry Ford. Bubba Gregory. Landon Gully. Richard Harsh. Dwight Jewell.
Yes.
Richard Johnson.
Yes.
Rachel Jones. David Nollner. Amber Russell. Lonnie Taylor. Gary Walsh. Steve Whitaker. Ethan Bowles. 19 yes, 1 absent.
Does pass. Next is ordinance 218-2021-09. This is setting the tax levy at 2.4388 cumulative on $100 of taxable property. Mr. Ford makes a motion. Mr. Clarity gets a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, whenever you're ready, Ms. Rita.
Beverly Atwood. Mary Ann Baker. Ken Buckmaster. Shane Burton. Gary Clarity. Richard Davis. Coy Dickey. Jerry Ford. Bubba Gregory. Landon Gully. Richard Harsh. Dwight Jewell.
Yes.
Richard Johnson.
Yes.
Rachel Jones. David Nollner. Amber Russell. Lonnie Taylor. Gary Walsh. Steve Whitaker. Ethan Bowles. 19 yes, 1 absent.
Is approved. Next will be ordinance 2/18/2021-09, third reading. I'm sorry, 2/19/2021-10. This is to set the appropriations for the various departments in the Urban Services Fund. Ms. Baker. Ms. Baker makes a motion to approve. Ms. Atwood has a second. Any questions? Okay. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Rita.
Okay. Beverly Atwood. Mary Ann Baker. Ken Buckmaster. Shane Burton. Gary Clarity. Richard Davis. Coy Dickey. Jerry Ford. Bubba Gregory. Landon Gully. Richard Harsh. Dwight Jewell.
Yes.
Richard Johnson.
Yes.
Rachel Jones. David Nollner. Amber Russell. Lonnie Taylor. Gary Walsh. Steve Whitaker. Ethan Bowles. 19 yes, 1 absent.
It is approved. Next is ordinance 2021-11. This is an ordinance to set the urban services tax rate at 0.8753. Urban Services Council, what's your wishes? Mr. Gregory? Have a motion to approve? Mr. Johnson has a second. Have a motion by Mr. Gregory, second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor?
No.
Up.
Bubba Gregory.
Yes.
Richard Johnson. David Nollner. 3 yes, 0 no.
I believe that one's done too. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second year in a row that we're being able to start our new fiscal year out with a budget in place, and you're to be commended for that. Appreciate it greatly. Next, we have on first reading ordinances, some rezoning ordinances. First is 2/21/2021-12. This is rezoning a parcel from A1 to R1. I believe this is a 1 acre tract to be cut off of that. Parcel identified is 01502, tax map 017. This is out on Walnut Grove Road. This was approved and recommended by the Planning Commission, and this is our first reading on this tonight. Rachel, I think you had it in the first there.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Gregory? Sorry. Mr. Gregory had the second. Motion to approve by Ms. Jones and second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion on this one? Yes, Mr. Gully. Yes, sir.
I know I asked in our work session, but I want to make sure that we're being fair here, because we've required some others to make sure that on their plat, they had shown where that 1 acre that was being taken off was going to be located. That's not in front of us here. I'm fine with what we're doing, but it has been surveyed and we know where that 1 acre that we're giving off is. Is that correct? We have required that in the past.
I think we'd asked for that.
I did.
You'll have it by the second reading, notice, they're waiting on surveyor to finish the legal statement, and, you'll have it by second reading.
Or we can say no tonight. Any more? Okay. Okay, that's okay. I just.
Mr. Chairman, in the past, this body has, when it done a first reading without that legal description and that documentation you're asking about. If you're gonna treat this one differently, I would ask why.
We've already got a motion to approve. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I think what's happened is when we required the legal description is if they were doing the front part of the property was commercial and the other part of the property, if it was two zonings, is the ones that we've got the legal description on, that I'm aware of.
But this is going to be two zonings.
But, well,
You don't know what part of this track is going to be R1, I think is the objection.
okay.
It could be at the front, it could be in the middle, it could be at the back. Mr. Gully?
We had one of these come before us last year where we did the same thing, where we asked where that 1 acre was going to be. And that's the only reason I want to be fair for sure, that we are making sure we're treating each group the same way. We required that that 1 acre be shown legal description in front of us before we vote on it.
Mayor?
We had I believe there was a son getting property from their parents or something in Cato. Then it was going to go for an R1 and an A1. It passed first reading without a legal description and this documentation, and they had it by the second reading. So again, I would ask if we're going to do something differently on this one, what is the difference? What is the basis for treating this similarly situated property different?
Mr. Harsh?
Yeah, all right, I call for question.
We have a question. This is to approve this on first reading. We will have a public hearing and second reading. We did ask that this, I think in work session, that this be provided to us prior to this. Our motion is to approve, and it is duly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Believe the ayes have it. Okay, take it up again next month. Sam, if you could get that to everybody, I think it would certainly help things. Sorry?
I was going to elaborate on this question. So this is, you're urging all of the coming through that they will have a legal description for second reading and memo. This one doesn't have it. You understand, surveyors are backed up. Most of these people do not sign them. They are working on it, and they need a second reading.
Okay.
So this is the basic issue that happened in the past. Yes, of course, there's some proof out there. This is that basic issues. Zoning maps that are wrong for property for resale because they didn't know where they said it's supposed to go. And they were being required to provide legal descriptions to fix those issues.
Sam, I appreciate your input on this, but this is already passed. Just move on to next ordinance 222, 2021-13. This is a rezoning C2 to part of it C2 and R3. There was some question on this, and we got some additional information that was emailed to everyone. I think some of you that don't get email, we had this available for you tonight. Any questions on it? Have a motion to approve by Mr. Harsh, second by Mr. Nolan. Any further questions on this one? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I didn't see you blinking, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. It is approved. We'll take it up on second reading. What was your comment, Mr. Walsh?
It says C2 to R3, but here it says A1 to R1.
That was corrected. That was what you should have received. By
On your email, I did correct that.
Next, we'll get into our budget amendments. All of these, I believe, None of these will actually require a roll call vote. They're all moving line items to try to end up categories to make sure that we're not going over on any of them. If you'd like to pull any of them out for discussion, you'll let it be known which ones. We'll take them out. Ms. Clarity, did you want to speak?
I'll make a motion to approve them all.
Have a motion to approve them all. Mr. Walsh gets a second. Have a motion to approve all the budget amendments, 2021-101-37, 2021-111-03, 2021-116-04, 2021-131-05, 2021-141-21 FB, 2021-141-22 FB, 2021-141-23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and also in food services, 2021-143-01 and 2021-143-02. That should clean up our budget for the year. We did have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Did you need to say something? I'm sorry. No? Then push it again and it'll go off. Thank you. Okay. Next, notaries, we had two. Miss Freddie Banks with Volunteer Adhesives Corporation and Maria Lockstadt, who is self-employed. Any questions on the notaries? Anybody want to make a motion to approve them? Mr. Clarity wants to make a motion to approve them. Have a second? Ms. Baker makes a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, they are approved, Ms. Rita. Other business, the review, the debt management policy, I think it just needs to be spread on the minutes that we have received it and acknowledge it. It's not anything that requires a vote. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Time in our agenda for public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make any comment? Well, oh, where's it at? Got one other thing, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I did not include this as a handout or in your packet, but we have received the 2022 annual bond coverage for elected officials. That is under the Tennessee Risk Management Trust and the Next Generation Underwriters. So just letting you know that all elected officials, including yourselves, are covered for this year.
Just needs to be reflected in the minutes that we've acknowledged that. I thought that was a part of the other, I'm sorry. That's okay. All right. Public comments.
Vice Chair for the Water Board. Grateful for every single one of you that sits here. Grateful for the dedication that you've given to this community that I've embraced for the past 20 plus years. Who does have a water tap that had to run it 1.5 miles to get it to the house. So there's a lot of comments tonight that have been stated that are a valid concern. Your water department is working hard. They are trying to improve the services that they provide on a daily basis, improving the products that they're giving to this community. The clay, every single time Tommy's turning around, he's replacing this clay. This is a project that actually was brought before you in 2018, and many of you were the leaders of this body that approved the budget, approved the purchase of the property, and I'm sure approved for our names to be on this committee. And we're grateful. And you've put a job before us to be done. And yes, sir, the chairman is the one of this board, is the one person who voted against this project, not the entire committee. I'm not here to scorn you. I'm here to welcome you. We have one more meeting. We will gladly call for a special called meeting for you all to attend for a work session to answer any questions that you have so we can all be on the table. Because I believe we all need to be in the know for this project. This is an investment for this community to take care of what we already have. This is also a project that is going to better the investments that you have already made. You're in construction, you know, when you start a project, that's not how it's going to end. There's going to be changes. There's going to be additions. This community has grown so fast in the past 5 years, not to mention the 20 years that my family and I've lived here. So we are facing change, whether we want it or not. I had 11 neighbors on my road when I moved here. I have more than that now. I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful for you. But I want us all to be working to the community that we provide the service for. And I want to welcome you all to our water board meeting so we can put transparency on this for every single one of the constituents that have voted you into this position, because you voted for us to be approved on our position. I do not take my time lightly. I don't, because I love and adore this community. I've raised all 3 of my boys here, and my grandchildren are coming next. So hang on. We're going to be here a little while. And I welcome for us to all work together on this. But you all started these milestones for us to have this project. And for some reason, it's now being put on hold because we had 1 vote against it. Is that how it normally happens? Because this is my very first time in Hartsville politics. And I open my door. Most of you know where I live. You're welcome to knock on it any day. I'm an open book. But this water board is an open book too. And that is where we stand. You gave us a job to do. You handed us what you voted for before we got in this position. And we're just trying to complete the task that you put before us. We're very appreciative. And I want to thank you again for every single moment that you give this community and every job you do for it. Because we are so grateful for you. Because I have grandchildren at stake that I want you to take care of in the future. And I want to thank you for your time, and if anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Next water board meeting. Would love to see you. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Walsh?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Have a second? Have a second, Mr. Gregory, all in favor, say aye.